So finally, I did it. After procrastinating the past few months, I finally caught up on My Hero Academia. I know, I'm a bad person, but can we just all agree to be thankful that we finally made it to the villains arc? These past few arcs of My Hero Academia, I won't go as far as to say they've been bad, but they sure as hell haven't been any sports festival arcs. The villains arc is something I've seriously been looking forward to since I read it in the manga, and frankly, this arc is probably my favorite in the entire show. To be fair, it is long as hell, and unfortunately, I'm positive that we won't get to see the bulk of it until next season, but man, even just the beginning of this arc is a major improvement from what we've gotten this past year. And trust me, if I get the time, I'll do a proper video on what's going on with Shigaraki and the gang. But while we are on the topic of villains, I really wanted to do a deep dive into the most villain-like hero, Endeavour, and talk about his story. Because it's surprisingly good, and despite me not really loving the past few arcs, Endeavour has really been the emotional core of this show, especially for the past few arcs, excluding the Class 1A versus Class 1B arc. And today, I really want to take some time to sit down and talk about him. So Endeavour is the embodiment of the ideology that ambition trumps all. If you are ambitious enough, you can climb to freaking space, and Endeavour trumps all when it comes to saving people's lives. Excluding All Might, but we'll get to that later. Endeavour wants to be the best hero ever, and will stop at nothing to reach his goal. But therein lies the hypocrisy of being a hero. The truth of the matter is that Endeavour is only a man, and men have limits. And women too, I just want to sound fancy. So before we dive into Endeavour, let's talk about the whole point of All Might. All Might was meant to be this true vision of a hero, someone who never loses, always smiles, and arrives in the nick of time without fail. People view All Might as akin to a god. He is invulnerable, and most people reference All Might as the ideal hero. But in truth, he's paid to maintain that facade of being godlike. Because like Endeavour, he is just a man, and sure enough, he is incapable of fighting now. He suffers from many health issues, and most importantly, he's never had a family. It was an expensive task to maintain that facade of being the quote-unquote ideal hero, which frankly isn't something that is truly attainable. And like I said just a second ago, therein lies the root problem. You see, Endeavour believes in this ideology that ambition trumps all and continues to pursue what is truly an impossible task. And just like All Might, there will be a price to pay. That price in particular is his family. Endeavour basically created a mock family with a woman who has an ice quirk with the hopes of having a child with a half-hot, half-cold quirk, which is frankly macabre if you really think about it. After eventually lucking out with Shoto, he trained Shoto to the edge while ignoring the rest of his children and abusing his wife, all in the name of becoming a better hero, or at least creating a better hero. Honestly, at this point, his motives weren't clear. He was quite literally blinded by his ambitions, and that can lead to way more than just family problems. A good example is Shigaraki's backstory, which was finally fully revealed recently, and it brings up an interesting question. How are villains made? I mean, I'd have to imagine that it's pretty rare for kids to be like, yeah, when I grow up, I want to be a domestic terrorist. Like, maybe Klee, but that's a rare case. Most of the time, casual criminals are created because of gaps in the system, but the interesting thing about villains themselves is they are often created directly because of heroes. Shigaraki is a prime case where his grandmother was a popular hero, actually the previous One for All holder before All Might. But due to her life as a hero, she obviously wasn't there for her son, and obviously she died in action, giving her son an immense amount of hatred towards hero society, leading eventually to him abusing his children, specifically Shigaraki, whenever they mention heroes. This obviously helped breed Shigaraki's hatred for Hero Society, and after his incident, he is saved by All for One instead of a hero. I mean, it's no wonder he turned into a villain. It's an interesting argument because it's not often asked to how being heroes affects your loved ones, but it's an idea that's being explored more often. I think Koda from Season 3 is a perfect example of someone who really could have gone down the path of becoming a villain as a direct relation of his parents being heroes. But luckily enough, he had a safety net in the Wild Wild Pussycats and eventually Midoriya. And of course, you don't have to die to create villains. Stain is someone who got obsessed with All Might and turned into a villain because of it. And Endeavour has surely created some of his own. But what I think makes Endeavour such a well-written character is that he is the first hero to actually recognize this. That sure, on the daily he is saving countless lives, but his decisions outside of work can cause huge problems. So finally, he has begun to atone for his past mistakes, which I believe is an important distinction from merely apologizing or asking for forgiveness. Endeavour isn't an evil man, he's just incredibly flawed. But my favorite type of character is one who begins to see the mistakes of their ways and instead of just ignoring it, begins to take active steps to making things right. And that has been a major improvement for Endeavour. He's begun reaching out to Shoto and the rest of his family, but he's not being forceful about it. He's taking it slow and trying his best to make up to them individually, even if he knows forgiveness is something he'll probably never obtain from them. And this trend is sure to continue throughout the next season. So far, he's merely scratched the surface, and I'm sure many of his past mistakes will come to haunt him soon enough. But I'm gonna stop there because that is definitely getting into spoiler territory. My main point is this. Endeavour becoming the #1 hero really opened his eyes to the world. After all, he never knew about all the sacrifices All Might had to make to maintain that godlike facade until afterwards. Endeavour finally understands that there are limits. There are gaps that are impossible to cross, and attempting to cross those gaps means making major sacrifices that will surely come back to haunt you. Endeavour understands how his unending ambitions have hurt those closest to him, and that the only way to move forward is acknowledging his mistakes of his past and trying to atone for them. Thank you for watching. And thank you for viewing on Twitch as well. Did I mention I do all my videos live on Twitch and everyone gets to make fun of me? We got 2 raids during this stream, and I feel really bad for everyone who joined in last second. If you want to come see me like butcher lines and make massive mistakes, come join me at twitch.tv/ManimeMatt, and make sure you guys subscribe and do all the other things. Peace.